Hi guys, can you hear me now? I think I didn't turn on the audio. Okay, I'm going to get to grips with this. If you can hear me now, just let me know, do a shout out, and then we can start. Sorry about that. Um, okay, great. So people are hearing me again. Sorry. So, welcome to my webinar on living shamanically in the urban jungle. When I was in the dark retreat in December, I went into a cave for 14 days, 14 nights and 13 days in deep, deep darkness. In fact, it was pitch black, and I didn't see anything for those 13 days, 14 nights. And I got this really strong message that I needed to share more of my deep wisdom and what I've learned and the journey that I've been on. And so I'm putting together these webinars. I want to do them every month, and looking at different themes around the shamanic perspective. But we can explore lots of different concepts around spirituality, living shamanically, and also any questions that you may have and any problems that you're having on your own shamanic or spiritual path. For me, it's all part of the same thing. For those of you who don't know, I have a background in Eastern philosophies. I lived in India for a year and a half, and I majored in Hinduism at university in the study of religions degree. I've sat Vipassana and been a Vipassana meditator for 25 years. I've read tarot for 30 years. And I've been walking this path for a very long time, and I have gone deep into many different aspects of the spiritual path. And I'm really here now to help share my experiences and my understanding, my wisdoms with you, and help you on your path. So on this first webinar, I want to look at living shamanically in the urban jungle, because when I got back from Peru, I had a real difficult time with marrying my values and my principles with how we live in the West and the way we live in the West. And living more shamanically is really living more in tune with nature, living more in tune with the rhythms and flows of nature, and becoming much more aware of the natural flows that nature has compared to the man-made flows that we've created. And one of the big problems that we face is actually our Gregorian calendar. It's the only calendar that is out of tune or out of sync with the moon. All other ancient religions use the moon to base their flows and their times on. And the moon is a powerful time object because it waxes and wanes over a 28-day period. So it's very easy to see when the moon's waxing and waning, when certain festivals are or when seasons start and change. The moon is an incredibly important part of that process. And when we move to the Gregorian calendar, which is a sun-based calendar, we lost connection with this natural rhythms and flows of the moon and the cycles of nature, and we lost connection with the land. And we're at this point now in our consciousness and our humanity where we are massively disconnected to the natural rhythms and flows of nature, to the natural rhythms and flows of the moon, and to living more in tune with how nature works. We've been bamboozled by a lot of man-made ideas, and they're not in alignment with the natural laws of nature. And living shamanically is aligning ourselves much more with the natural laws of nature rather than the man-made laws, and also the laws that have been created that don't align with human behavior and human needs. So this is an opportunity over this webinar to ask your questions on what shamanism is to you. What do you think about shamanism? What would you like to know about it? How do you feel living shamanically in the urban jungle? Is it even possible? How do we do it without there being any real support or help from society? And so I really hope that you will find this seminar and webinar interesting, and it will answer some of your questions. So if you could start asking your questions, please will you just start posting them up on the chat, and I will be able to tap for them. Okay, so Zoe asks, hi, Rebekah, I've read both of your books and couldn't put them down. I wondered if you have ever considered running online classes to encourage more people to become shamans. So yes, living shamanically definitely is something that I'm writing a book about, to help people become more aligned and more in tune with nature. There's a lot of things that we can do, like small tweaks every day that brings us back into alignment with nature, brings us back into alignment with the moon. They're simple, the simple exercises where we can bring our minds back into balance, our bodies back into balance, and our souls or our hearts back into balance. So there are online courses. I'm in the middle of preparing them now to send to get that message out. A really simple one for now, if you're feeling really ungrounded, is just to really walk barefoot on the ground. Taking your shoes and socks off. The sun is coming out now here in the northern hemisphere. Summer is around the corner. On the 1st of May we have Beltane, which is the beginning of summer. So this is an opportunity to start discarding the heavy clothing, and often we forget about taking our shoes and socks off, and we're so used to wearing shoes and socks that actually we don't think about having bare feet. So now is a good time to start getting used to not wearing shoes so much, and actually taking your shoes and socks off, feeling that grass beneath your feet. And it's more than just connecting to the ground. Mother Earth is pulsing electromagnetic energy that comes all the way from the core all the way up to the upper crust, and this electromagnetic energy feeds our electromagnetic energy. And when we walk barefoot, we can really feel that energy flowing up through the soles of the feet and into the body, and can really connect us and ground us. And if you're feeling really confused or angry or frustrated or discombobulated, or just feeling a bit out of sorts, or what I like to call wonky, taking your shoes and socks off and just walking barefoot can really, and giving it to Mother Earth, giving that feeling to Mother Earth, feeling that feeling coming out of the soles of your feet and being burnt by Mother Earth, just seeing it flowing out of your body. It's a really powerful exercise to become much calmer and much more centered. So it's a very easy practice to do. It's not going to take too long. You can do it even in 5 minutes, but you will find if you take your shoes and socks off and start walking in nature, you will immediately start feeling calmer, more peaceful, and the answers are often when we feel much calmer and much more peaceful within ourselves. So stay tuned. There will be online courses coming on, and a book will be coming out with a lot more of these kind of exercises to help people live more shamanically in the urban jungle. So Charlie, what do you think about individual responsibility to make systemic change in the face of climate change? How can we best contribute to real change beyond recycling, being responsible consumers, etc.? Do we all have different roles in the healing of the world, and how can we get clearer on carrying out our roles? So that's a great question. Personally, I think that there's 2 issues going on. I think when we look at it from a collective, we can get really hopeless and helpless. It's very easy to see the problems of climate change so beyond our capacity that actually is, oh, well, I can't do anything about it, so why bother? But actually, each one of us has an important part to play, because each one of us is having an impact on what's happening next. It's the only generation, for the first time in our existence of humanity, that actually every action we're having is having a direct impact on what's going to happen next on planet Earth. So taking personal responsibility brings the power back to us. So we can't stop governments and the war debt and all of that stuff that's happening on the collective level, but on a personal level, we can choose to be the cure or choose to be the disease. And when we choose to be the cure, when we choose to change our behaviors in order to be more sustainable, in order to stop using products that are unsustainable, to stop being wasteful, and becoming more aware of our consumption and where we consume and how we spend our money, then we realize the power is actually with us, because you can't change the external, you can't change the rest of the world, you can't change anybody else, but you can change yourself. And what I found, having been walked this path for many years, is actually by being the change for me, is that I feel much more energized. I have motivated to get up in the morning, and I feel really hopeful that things can change. And we're seeing one human being, Greta Thunberg, who has taken it on her shoulders to actually really talk about climate change, and to go around, despite the ignorance and the deaf ears of politicians, she's still making that little bit of change. And each one of us can do our part, however you are feeling passionate to do. So it is really finding the time to go into silence and actually hear what your heart is telling you to do. Because, and what I'm seeing is that the reason why people are feeling sick and depressed and unhappy is because they are acting in a way that isn't in alignment with Mother Earth, and is acting as part of the dis-ease. And if you act towards the dis-ease with the disease, then you become diseased. And diseased, when you start becoming part of the cure, you start feeling more healthy, more vibrant, more alive, and more energized. And this is because you're making the inner changes. So the inner changes are the things that make the most changes within yourself, and actually that's all we can change. So I really feel that as an individual, we have a massive part to play for our own sense of well-being, for our own sense of self, for our own sense of well-being. When we shift from being part of the dis-ease to being part of the cure, we start feeling much better about ourselves, much better about the world. We start loving ourselves more, we start honoring ourselves more, and we start realizing that actually everything's interconnected. So every one of our actions has an important part to play in this unfolding planetary story. And it's another very easy way of becoming part of the cure and not part of the disease, is to start, for example, not putting any more toxic products on your body. When we buy products that aren't organic, that aren't made from plant-based materials, we are adding way more toxins onto our skin and onto the oceans and into the waters when we wash it off. So by just changing your products, your shampoo, your conditioner, your body wash, when you change that from a chemical shampoo from Superdrug, for example, and you move to an organic based shampoo and conditioner, you start feeling better, because you're no longer putting chemicals directly onto the skin. The skin can't absorb those chemicals. We are a living being, part of nature. So if you can't pronounce the chemical that you're putting on your skin, your body can't digest it. And your skin is your largest organ in your body. So by literally just switching to plant-based organic shampoos and conditioners and body washes, you're immediately reducing the toxic waste already that's happening on the planet. And these are the little tweaks that actually make a massive difference, because by changing your spending from products that aren't helping the planet, that are being made cheaply and non-sustainably, to companies that are creating products that are organic, plant-based, and good for the planet and good for you, you will immediately feel a difference in your skin, on your hair, in the way you feel. And this is what it is. The more you feel healthier, more vibrant, and more alive, the more the change is going to happen, and the more you'll start shifting consciousness to be more aligned with the more natural ways of living shamanically in the urban jungle. So let's see if there's another question. Safia, hi Rebecca, what do you think about participating in plant medicine ceremonies, San Pedro, ayahuasca in the urban jungle, at least the UK? So for me, I see the importance of drinking medicines. I know that not everyone can go to the Amazon, but personally, and this is my personal view, is that this ayahuasca and San Pedro are not from our culture. They're from the indigenous cultures of the Peruvian Amazon. So I always think if you're going to drink it properly, to drink it with an indigenous person. If I sit in ceremony, I only sit with an indigenous person. I could take a ceremony, or facilitate a ceremony on my own. I never would, because it's not my lineage. And to honor the indigenous shamans that have kept the knowledge and the sacred songs and the sacred wisdom of the plant over thousands of millennia is really important. And we sit with indigenous, we actually recognize why we're drinking it. And I think when we have the opportunity to kind of take it on a weekend with isn't holding the land, we miss a really, really vital part. Aren't getting what they need from the medicine. As called to however they're asking me on a person to have medicine supply special experience plan seeks really shifting, then taking it with an indigenous person is an essential part of that process. Even if you've taken it a time in the UK or wherever with non-indigenous, not sitting with an indigenous means that you haven't, I feel, really fully dived deep in with the medicine, because it's only with indigenous that they can take you to those deeper places. So if you're really interested in diving as deep as you can with the medicine, then taking it with an indigenous person, whether you're in England or in Peru or wherever, is a really important part of any serious plant medicine person's journey. So Nelly, ayahuasca tourism has become huge. What do you think about that? Are the plant teachers supposed to be taken by everyone if they decide to consume it, or do they choose who is going to take them? And do you think it is better to take them where they grow? Thank you. Well, like I said, I do think it's better to grow. There's a big sustainability issue around ayahuasca as well. I'm not going to go too much into it here because I do want to do a webinar specifically on this, but there's a sustainability issue as well. If you're taking ayahuasca, drinking ayahuasca in the UK, you're disconnected to the plant. You're not growing it, you're not replanting it, and there's a serious sustainability issue with ayahuasca at the moment in the Amazon. And this is because of the amount of people in the West who are taking it and not replanting the vine and giving back to the earth and giving back to the mother. So there is a issue there. Sean, I've often felt conflict with the daily schedules and sleep patterns where the moon call me to do work with greater focus during the night. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a situation, Sean. It's very difficult to walk the living shamanically path and have a full-time job and a 9-to-5 job, and to straddle those two worlds. I did it for 2.5 years, but it was very conflicting for me too. I think when we're in a job that doesn't align with our value systems and doesn't align with our principles, it's getting harder and harder to turn a blind eye. And that is because we are hitting a crisis point in humanity, a crisis point as a species. And now we're really being forced, each one of us, to wake up, to really understand what's happening on this planet and to start making those changes. And wherever you are on the planetary scale, wherever you are on the evolutionary scale, it doesn't matter, everyone's waking up. So some of us are waking up and realizing that we have to make a huge change and making big changes in our lives. Other people are waking up in different areas, and everyone is an important part of it. Everyone is doing their bit. So working with the moon energy, of course, is usually a nighttime process. So it's about making sure you don't burn out. This is a really important thing, not to burn out, not to try to do too much. if you're doing moon rituals all night and then waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to do your morning practice and then going to a 9 to 5 job and coming back, there's only so much you can do to sustain that. So it's also being everything in moderation and checking your own levels of energy and what feels right. So sometimes missing morning practice and lying in can be as important as getting up and doing a morning practice. So it's also finding your own balance with that, and everything's in balance and everyone will be different. But trying to fit in a spiritual practice alongside everything else without giving yourself some time for integration, rest and relaxation only leads to more burnout. So it's not serving a purpose. So making sure that you do find that balance. If you are doing a moon ritual in the night and you are working in the evening, then making sure that the next day you've got very little on, or you're not having to be too taxed, or finding that time to rest in the day is essential. And any spiritual, any shamanic or spiritual person that's doing these ceremonies always finds time to rest, relax, and most importantly to integrate. Integration is an incredibly important part of any shamanic practice. You need to find time to integrate, to be in silence, to make sure that you are clear and listening to your heart, and that's finding time out, ideally every day, but certainly a few times a week, to really just check in and make sure that you're in alignment with yourself, that what you're doing is in flow, and that you're not fighting, and that you're in tune with your own heart and with where you're going. So, Sophie, what are your top tips to use on a daily basis in London? So my top tips is it's always good to have some kind of spiritual practice, whatever that is, or shamanic practice. I'm using the word spiritual and shamanic interchangeably. Shamanic is, for me, the shamanic practice incorporates the darkness as well as the light. So when we work shamanically, we embrace the darkness as well as we embrace the light. Everything is a duality, and we recognize that in the shamanic path. So whereas you can't have light without dark, you can't have peace without war, you can't have love without fear. We have to embrace all of it together. So having some kind of practice that connects you to yourself, whether that's meditation or mindfulness or writing morning pages or drawing, whatever it is that can get you connected into yourself, to give you that space and time to really go in deep, to switch off the mind so you can just hear what's in your heart. This is really important, to have that on a daily basis, to give yourself that half an hour. However that is, sometimes for me it's going swimming, cold water swimming in the Lido, where I can just power the water, and it just depends where you find it the best for you. And that's what I love about the shamanic path, is that your path will be unique to you. Whatever works for you is what works for you, but to do it consistently. So it is really important to make sure that you have some kind of consistent practice, so that you can start getting into a routine, so that you add it as part of your daily rituals. And we humans need rituals, we need ceremony. We've always had rituals and ceremony. The sacred ritual has always been a massive part of our lives, and we've missed out on sacred ritual. But sacred ritual can be anything. Sacred ritual can be washing yourself in the shower, can become a sacred ritual. Anything can become a sacred ritual when it's done in its consciousness. So this is also about becoming much more mindful about what you're doing, how much water you're using, what you're putting on your body, what you're eating. It's bringing yourself back into a mindfulness. The question is, how much impact is this action having on the planet? So that's the question I ask myself. How much impact is this having on the planet? So I don't take many baths. I take showers to minimize my water intake. I only use organic products on my skin. I only buy from a company, a trade, or a or that aligns with what I've done. Is I've started to create a environment for myself that makes me feel like I'm helping sustain what's going on the planet. And for me, that's been a very important way of keeping sane in the urban jungle. So let me see if there's any other questions. Sophia, I've been meditating for 7 years. The last 9 months, I've been experiencing strong energy and involuntary movements and shaking in my meditation. It has also in the last month happening out of meditation. What's your understanding of what is happening? So my feeling is that there's that sometimes when you go deep into meditation, if you could, Sophia, if you're still online, if you could just email just what meditation are you doing, because that's going to be important to know, depending on what meditation you're doing, why you're shaking. From a Vipassana perspective, that's the meditation technique that I've been doing since 1994. Shaking can happen, involuntary shaking. It's just energy blockaging being moved as you concentrate on the sensations in the body. There's blockages of energy, and when you sit for periods of time, these energy blockages can unlock and create the jumping around. And I've seen it a number of times in Vipassana. It's more common than you think, but it can be very disconcerting, and it also can be quite disturbing to the meditation practice. So my feeling is that if this is happening, I would suggest or think about doing a longer, maybe 10-day Vipassana meditation. There's obviously some energetic blocks that are becoming unlocked, and actually in a morning you're not going to be able to release it enough. So going maybe on a 5-day meditation retreat or a 10-day meditation retreat to actually give yourself that space and time to really go deep, and what you'll find is that the shaking will stop. It's just in the short periods that you're meditating, you're not able to work through all that shaking. So the energies, it's just the releasing of energy over like a drip. It's like a dripping, rather than if you go and do a 10-day meditation or even find a 5-day meditation or mindfulness retreat, what you'll find is that you'll be able to release it much more quickly, rather than a drip approach. So mindfulness and mantra. So it's connecting and it's releasing blockages around. And I had that quite a lot with Vipassana. I do think though, maybe going into a more deeper process with your meditation and mindfulness, certainly look at doing a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat. This is 10.5 hours a day, so whatever the blockages are, whatever's trying to come through the shakes, you're really going to be able to get in touch with it. Half an hour a day or an hour a day isn't long enough to really get deep in and to really search and find out what it is that's shaking you. So that's my suggestion, is to go a bit more deeper and to find somewhere where you can maybe even go for 3 days, but it's going to take a bit more than just morning meditation to work your way through your shaking. Okay, good. So does anyone have any other questions? That I am just going through the list. Okay, so I also want to talk a little bit about living shamanically in the urban jungle in regards to climate change, because one of the big issues that we're facing right now on the planet is the changing climate, the weather patterns that are seriously going to affect our food and water resources, and how that impact is going to have on our future generations. And the shamanic perspective looks 7 generations down. So making decisions that are going to affect 7 generations down is the shamanic way of making changes and setting structures in motion. So whatever we do now is going to have a massive impact for the future generations, and it's about becoming aware of our individual impact in that unfolding planetary story, and for our children and our grandchildren. And so what I'm finding is that a shamanic way of living really brings us back into balance with the planet, but also helps to balance this complete imbalance of the way we're acting on the planet and the way we use our natural resources. So living shamanically can really help align us with the way we use and utilize and consume products that Mother Earth provides for us, and the way we use and consume those natural resources. And so when we start living shamanically, we start becoming aware that whatever we do to Mother Earth, we're actually doing to ourselves. That when we throw something away or we create a lot of waste, we're actually hurting ourselves because we're hurting Mother Earth. And this is a consciousness that I feel the plant medicines can help us achieve, that understanding that we're not separated to Mother Earth. We are a part of her and she is a part of us. And whatever we do to the earth, we do to ourselves. And it's that shamanic perspective that we've actually so disconnected from here in the West. And one of the reasons why is because we actually killed all our herbalists and plant medicine teachers and elders. Many of them were killed for being witches, murdered for being witches, silenced, and lands taken from them. So a lot of our ancient and indigenous knowledge has been lost here in the West, and certainly in England. In the UK, there are pockets, but very, very few and very rare wisdom keepers that hold the indigenous wisdom of the UK. And what I'm seeing is a renaissance of the understanding of shamanism and the understanding of living shamanically in the urban jungle, because we're all indigenous to Mother Earth, whether we live in the Amazon jungle or whether we live in the urban jungle. We all have a part to play in this unfolding planetary story, and the Amazonian indigenous shamans that are protecting the front line are as important as us here in the West, because there is no borders, there is no boundaries when it comes to planet Earth, Mother Earth. There is no boundaries. Humans have put the boundaries up, but pollution, climate change, this is a global issue and it affects everybody on this planet. And here in the West, we have the luxury of being able to recognize and see how our actions are impacting on climate change. We are a sophisticated society, and having that awareness and the freedom to do something about it puts us in an incredibly privileged position. And I feel that we have a duty here in the West to actually really take a stand for climate change and for the important part that we play as individuals to changing the trajectory that we're on, and the power that we have as people to do that. Because if we all took a stand individually together, that makes us incredibly, incredibly powerful. And the rise and an interest in shamanism is this rise and interest in living more shamanically with the earth, more in tune with nature, becoming more aware of the products that we are using that are harming or polluting Mother Earth, and also harming and polluting us. And when we shift to a more plant-based, shamanic living, we actually become much more aware of how we are a part of nature and she is a part of us. And it's taking those small tweaks that are going to help make us come out of the depression and the anxiety and the fear that so many of us are feeling, because we realize that the power belongs to us. And this is a power situation around power at the moment. The power is concentrated in government and central governments, and we're seeing that these central governments are playing towards an agenda that many of us haven't agreed to and certainly don't want. And now we're starting to see this shift and crumbling of the different consciousnesses of central government and governments and their agreements and trade agreements and the political system that we've created globally, and the will of the people, and what they're needing and wanting and calling out for. And with this crumbling of the political system as we know it, we're in a transition period, and within that transition period, finding ways through that are going to keep and help us keep balanced is really important. And living shamanically is a really easy and simple way of remaining balanced as things around us start becoming very, very unstable, and politically, economically, things start becoming very unstable. If we turn the attention back to us and what we can do and where the power lies within us, we start becoming much more grounded and much more empowered to change what we can in our own lives. And from changing our own lives and becoming personally responsible and in control of our own lives, we can very easily then see how that's having an impact on the people around us and our lives, and that if you're changing your little orbit, and we see ourselves as little stars and everyone's a star in this huge universal Mother Earth, then you're shining your light bright and you're a star, you're influencing and inspiring others around you, then it becomes what I call the 100 monkey theory, or what we know as the 100 monkey theory, where we all kind of switch each other on, and what we become imaginal cells. And these imaginal cells are really important. And I talk about the evolutionary biologists talk about the butterfly and the caterpillar. And the caterpillar starts consuming 3 times its body weight, and it goes into crisis. And within the body of the caterpillar, imaginal cells appear, and these imaginal cells imagine the caterpillar into the butterfly. And it's very much what's happening here on Mother Earth. Humanity is starting to consume 3 times its body weight. We don't have the resources to continue to we don't have infinite resources to feed our future generations. Certainly we don't have enough resources for 7 generations down, which means that we're heading into a crisis of consciousness. And from this crisis of consciousness, imaginal cells are starting to appear on Mother Earth. And these imaginal cells are those people that are no longer aligning to the ways in which the political, economic and financial systems have been set up, and are starting to realize that a new way needs to be forged that is much more in balance and in harmony with Mother Earth, the shamanic way. And so by switching ourselves on as imaginal cells and imagining a different trajectory and a different story, unfolding planetary story from Mother Earth, we inspire others to switch on and also be the change. And the imaginal cells, there's so many of us, the more of us that switch on and realize that a new way is possible, and that we can disconnect from this old consciousness of separation and consumption and debt and greed and fear, to one of love and harmony and feeding everybody on the planet and connection, and realizing we're a global community. Then once the more of us that switch onto that imaginal cells, the more we become that, and the more we can change the trajectory we are on. I really feel we're at a critical time in the evolution of consciousness for humanity, and it really isn't everyone's. We can't change anybody else. All we can do is to change ourselves. So by choosing to be an imaginal cell and turning yourself on, you are automatically becoming part of the cure and changing a little part of the trajectory. And it's like a piece of a puzzle. We're all pieces of the same puzzle. And the more of us that turn on the imaginal cell, the more the puzzle will take on a new shape and a new form, and we can keep a planet safe and healthy for future generations. So Sophie, how do you accept other people not acting shamanically or kindly to nature around you or us? Is it just a case of us acting well and them learning by example? What can we do to help teach and be listened for those who are very indoctrinated. My feeling is that you can't preach to anybody because everybody has their own belief systems. And all you can do is live by example. And if you inspire others to do the same, then if you've just inspired just one person or you've helped change one person's life, that's enough. I only take personal responsibility for myself. I don't really worry about what's happening outside. I used to. It was called Save the Planet syndrome. It's quite a dangerous syndrome. Save the Planet syndrome is an ideal that if I don't do something, everything's going to fall apart. And there can be a lot of pressure on the Save the Planet syndrome. So actually, for me, I just do what I can, and if I inspire others, then that's great. But as long as I'm living my truth and in values, and with my value systems and my principles, and I'm happy, peaceful, and harmonious and inspirational, then and people see that and benefit from that, then that's the best that I can do every day. I certainly don't have all the answers to all the problems that we are facing on this planet. It's too enormous. I find that the best thing is to find your niche. Where do you feel passionate about? What part of this amazing life do you feel the most passionate about? And whichever part that you feel passionate about is getting yourself connected into that and doing what you feel is your passion. My passion is plant medicines and cannabis, hemp, and that's why I've gone into the hemp industry to help be a part of liberating the plant. That's where I feel my calling, and that's what wakes me up in the morning and motivates me, and working with cacao therapeutically to help shift people's consciousness and help them feel more stabilized and clear and grounded. So working with plant medicines is my passion, and as long as I'm doing that every day and helping my own little way, then I know that when I pass through this life, I've done the best that I can, and that's all that I think anyone can do, is just do the best that you can do. And if you're doing your best and you're being the best person, or the best potential of yourself, the best version of yourself, then that's all you can do. And there's no right or wrong way. Certainly living shamanically in the urban jungle is very difficult. But as long as you're doing your best, then your best is good enough for now. And if we all just did our best, then we would see a shift happening very, very quickly. For example, if everyone stopped using plastic bags tomorrow, that would be the end of plastic bags. If everyone just made a conscious choice that they weren't going to use plastic bags anymore, it would be the end of the plastic bags. If everyone chose not to drink, for example, Coca-Cola or any fizzy drinks anymore, and just drank water, then the whole of the fizzy drinks industry would die. All of these systems are being propped up by the way we spend our money. So also is becoming very aware that our purchasing power is a key issue in how we are also contributing to what's happening on the planet. Sean, during my recent 10-day Vipassana set, I went for a walk during the break and saw a butterfly moth that had lost its wings. This helped me accept the cycle of transformation. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything's around transformation and movement. I always find that in the 10-day Vipassana, the messages from nature are so strong, and that's because we're able to see them. And nature always has answers for us. If ever you're confused and you don't know what to do, you just need to take a walk in nature. The problem is we've forgotten how to interpret the messages that we're being given from Mother Earth and from nature. And this takes time. This takes time, and it takes experience, and it means walking out in nature. But nature holds the messages that we need. There's signs happening all around us at every moment. Life is constantly guiding us forward, and it's starting to become aware of those messages that are coming through. Most of us just ignore them, and I think they're coincidences, or we call them coincidences, but actually they're incredibly powerful messages from Mother Earth and from life to help us make the next step. And when we start reading these signs, when we start reading these messages from nature, we start living much more moment to moment. We stop trying to work it out in our minds. Do we take left? Do we take right? Should we do this and should we do that? And just let nature bring us the answer. We stop fighting also what that answer might be and just allow it to be exactly what it is. That's really living shamanically, is letting go of the ego need to know which way to turn or which way to move, and allowing life to just guide you gently down the path that you need to go. But that means relinquishing and letting go of any control. And we've become so addicted to control. We've become so addicted. Our consciousness becomes so addicted to trying to control our environment, trying to control what's happening, trying to control other people to fit our perspectives, that we've lost this natural flow of nature and life that is effortlessly guiding us to where we need to be and where we need to go. And when we start living more shamanically, we start letting go of that ego control. We start letting go of trying to control everything the way we want it, and start accepting life as it is and not as we would like it to be. And as soon as we start doing that, we become automatically much happier, more peaceful, more loving, and we start enjoying life a lot more because we start trusting it. And when we start living shamanically, it's an innate trust that life has our back, that life wants us to thrive and wants us to do well and is guiding us in the best way we know how. The problem is that we've become so distrustful of life and so scared of it almost that we don't trust the messages that are coming through. So a little exercise, if you're interested, to for the next 2 weeks is to trust your intuition, to make it a point in the next 2 weeks to trust whatever your intuition is saying, whatever the messages that are coming through from nature or from your meditation practices, to really start listening to it. Our intuition is directly connected to our self-love. So the stronger we love ourselves, the stronger our intuition becomes. So, and it's like a muscle, like any muscle. If you're weak and fat and you're sitting on a sofa, you don't want to go to the gym, and going to the gym is a really painful experience. But after a month, you can't not go to the gym because you've got so used to it. And that's a bit like trusting your intuition. At the beginning, it's going to feel uncomfortable and it's going to feel a bit strange and a bit weird and just a bit off. But the more you follow it, the more you allow it to guide you, within a month, 2 weeks to a month, you'll start realizing just how potent it is and just how much more you can get done and how much less you worry, because you're now starting to trust life a lot more. But you need to do it every day, and you need to trust your intuition every day. And it takes a lot of courage to break out of the mind control and actually start listening to the heart. But once you start doing it, like any muscle, the more you do it, the easier it becomes and the more fun it becomes and the more you start enjoying life. So that's a really easy way to start listening to your intuition, starting to see the signs that are around you, starting to connect with the nature that's around you, starting to see all the signs that life has for you. For example, someone pops into your mind and you get a very strong message that you need to call them. Just go and do it. Your rational side will tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't. But if you start listening to that inner voice within, just start following it in the moment. Don't let it pause. Just go straight for it. The moment you get that message, that intuition, act on it, the more you'll find how your intuition is working so directly in your heart and so in alignment with what you're needing and with your intuition, and with your intentions on what you're wanting to manifest. And very, very soon you'll find that your intuition will be guiding you much more than your rational control, and that's really powerful. So Sean, I sat in meditation to integrate the other day and felt an intuition go outside naked in the backyard, or I dug a hole with my hands. I smelled the dirt and put it on my skin. It initially felt very animalistic, then I felt very grounded and more human. I was then more attentive to the emotions around me without being so shaken by them. Yeah, there's an amazing documentary on YouTube called Grounded. It's about a guy in Alaska that understood, came across the electromagnetic pulses of Mother Earth, and that if you bury yourself in the dirt, you get really, really grounded and connected to Mother Earth, and it's a really good way of overcoming depression, anxiety, and stress. It's a fantastic documentary. You can see it on YouTube, and it's called Grounded, and it is amazing. If you are feeling really wobbly and scared, just go and dig your hands in the dirt and just ask Mother Earth for help. I mean, this is also really important to ask for help when you need it. There's a lot of help on different dimensional vibrations and frequencies. There's a lot of help around. You just need to ask for it. So we've lost our connections with spirits and angels and all the other helps from the other dimensions, ancestors specifically, and more importantly our ancestors, but there's a lot of help in other dimensional realms, and it's we've been disconnected through the monotheistic religions on being connected to those realms, but they exist, and all you need to do is ask for help and they can come and help you. And numerous times when I've been in very sticky situations and I've called on the angels to help, they've always come through in the most miraculous ways, and that's when you really start seeing miracles occur. So don't forget to ask for help if you need it. And I'm talking about not other human beings, because sometimes other human beings just can't help us, but certainly angels, the angelic realms are very close now. And there's amazing ways that life can help you if you just ask for it and come to a point where you don't know how you need the help. You just need it. And that's very powerful as well. It's just opening yourself up to receive whatever help life has for you. And this is another shamanic, living shamanically is enabling giving and receiving. So being able to receive all the gifts and blessings that life is giving us. And we've become so negative, and humans are defaulted to negative. So we'll see the negative before we see the positive. We'll see the bad news before we see the good news. But life is made up of the blessings and the burdens. So it's recognizing the duality reality that we see in shamanism, is recognizing that within every burden there is a great blessing, and with every blessing there is a great burden. And when we start seeing life like that, I started to embrace my burdens much more than I do my blessings, because I know if a big burden has come into my life, there is an amazing blessing embedded in it. And if a big, huge blessing comes into my life, I know that embedded in that is a great burden. And it's all about perspective, and that's the power of living shamanically, is that it gives us an opportunity to see life in a different way. It's a much more positive, uplifting, empowering way of seeing life. And it's not because we're seeing it in any way. It's not because the reality is different. It's the way we're seeing the reality that's different. It's much more in alignment with Mother Earth. It's much more in alignment with the natural flows of nature. It's being one with nature, so you feel protected and loved by all of nature because you know you're part of it. So that disconnect is no longer there. Flowing with the rhythms of the moon rather than the Gregorian calendar. So when the moon's waxing or waning, it's a very good time to understand when to start projects, end projects, see where projects are, utilizing the moon's energy to inspire you and fuel you in different ways. Through my lunarscope, my aim is to help people utilize that moon energy for those purposes, and also to let life guide you where you need to go. The more we can let go of needing to know and just surrendering to wherever the flow is taking us, knowing where we want to end up, makes life a whole lot more interesting and much more of an adventure, because we can sit back and start enjoying the ride. It's a heart-based approach rather than an ego-based approach. So when we live shamanically in the urban jungle, we're living from that heart-based approach rather from the ego-based approach. And when we start shifting our purchasing power to companies and consumption that's helping the earth, supporting the earth, companies that are contributing rather than taking away, we realize that the system's rotten, because there's no incentive to support the environment and social communities. But when we choose products and a way of life that that it does incorporate that, and we make those choices in ourselves, then we automatically feel much happier, more at peace, because we know we are part of the cure, and that whatever happens next, at least our actions are contributing to a healthy and thriving planet. So on that note, I am going to say thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you enjoyed it, that you found it interesting. It will be on a replay, which you can access from my website. Next, we will be doing another one at the end of June, and I hope to be doing them quite regularly. So it would be really great if you'd like to, on my Instagram or Facebook, or even email me any topics that you would particularly like to know more about, any questions that you have that you'd like me to answer or that hasn't been answered today, and anything that has been burning and that you would like to find clarity on, please do let me know. And I really look forward to connecting with everybody next month. Thank you so much for listening. Wishing you all a wonderful rest of the week and a great weekend. And do get out in nature. Enjoy the coming summer. The blossoms out, the lambs are lambing. This is a beautiful time as nature awakens. The vitality and fertility is out, and the energy you should start feeling that energy coursing through your own bodies as projects are starting to really take form now. Things are really starting to move forward. And so taking the time to be in nature and hear what the messages that nature has for you during this time of growth, and fertility, and also bringing that into your own lives and opening yourself up to all the fertility and life that is abounding in your own life. And most importantly, finding the gratitude every day for all the blessings that we have. We are so blessed where we're living, to be able to even have these moments together over the internet, to be able to discuss these things. Our lives are so blessed, and finding that gratitude every day really does help to come out of any fear or negativity, because when we start realizing all the blessings we have and we start feeling that gratitude, we open up the abundance to enable more of that in. So I really hope that it's helped you today, and that you also listen to your intuition for the rest of this week, for the next few weeks, and maybe we can have a chat about that next month, how it worked out for you by listening to your intuition, what exciting adventures your heart led you to. So wishing you all a beautiful rest of the night. Thank you all so much for joining me. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to reconnecting with you next month. Take care and lots of love.